Hello humans. Boy oh boy, I hope that you can hear me. I have to watch my little thingy up in the corner. The latency's a bit funny on this one. I wonder if oh good. Okay, there I am. We're getting somewhere. I will honestly at this point I will take it. Cause whoo, what a time we are having here today. Hello humans, how is everybody? I just thought, let's do a cheeky little YouTube live stream. I haven't live streamed on YouTube in a while. It'll be fine. I've done it before. And yet here we are. Isn't it just astounding the way that you can... Ooh, that was a good noise. Ooh. Yeah, good. I just think that it's hilarious that it's like if you want to schedule a live stream, somehow the scheduled live stream won't work and only streaming immediately will work. But if you want to stream something immediately, you can't do that. You have to schedule something. It truly is a masterpiece. How is everybody feeling? Yeah, we got there in the end. I should update the link on Twitter, actually. I should delete that. And I should replace it with the real link. Because somehow we ended up over here, didn't we? Let's see. Let me grab that. Boop, 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 boop. I don't know if you could hear that. Apologies if you could. Livestream is over here now. This is sometimes it just be that way, don't it? Hello from Melbourne. Hello from Wollongong. Root beer. I don't know whether root beer and ginger beer are the same thing. Honestly, who can tell? Who can tell? This has just been a little bit of a mess. See, okay, so I was trying to get a video done this week. We ended up having a visitor staying with us this week, so I didn't get a video finished. And then I thought, oh, I'll do a live stream. It'll be easy. We'll get a live stream in to sort of fill in because I don't want the YouTube algorithm to start hating me because I didn't get a video done this week. And then I got sick. I've caught the dreaded lurgy. Ugh, at least it's just the normal kind, not the fancy kind, you know. I'll take my wins where I can get them. But so I thought, oh, you know what, this is fine. We'll do a stream where we don't even worry about it being perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect, who cares? And it turns out that, I mean, I could use a little bit more perfection, just a touch. Okay, so root beer is from aged vanilla. Ooh, interesting. Root beer is full of sassafras, but isn't sassafras kind of like licorice flavor? Like sarsaparilla? I mean, it's wild. There's all these things, but yeah, hence the ginger beer because I got the dreaded lurgy. There we are. Yep. We get a lot of little references to my map of the US, which makes me happy. I thought this was funny. I want to show you this because as I was futzing about trying to get YouTube to work for me, anyway. Whoops, no, don't look. It's illegal, don't look. I don't know if there was anything actually sensitive there. I think it was probably fine. But this was uploaded as I was struggling with YouTube. YouTube live streaming sucks. So I want to see what Ludwig has to say, personally. Can you hear this? You can't hear this. You can't hear this. I'm glad I noticed sooner rather than later. Let's see what's missing. See, this is, I mean, what a nightmare. What's happened to all my settings? What happened to me? You know? What happened at some point in my life? There's one right there. Okay, let's try that. Where's that? Why isn't that doing anything? Why can't I see that? Properties? What's the haps? What's going on? Do this? No? Do that? Okay, well maybe we just don't hear what Ludwig has to say. That's okay. But just so you know, I thought that was amusing. This is... What a nightmare. There you all are. Hello, we're live. We're happening. Everything's good. Oh, geez. We got to get to the campaign planning so that I actually am dealing with something that, you know, is in my wheelhouse right now. Because, I'm run down as it gets. No, the captions aren't going to be... It's just not going to be worth it. I haven't even watched it yet. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be a boring video. So, I mean, hey. Here we are. We do what we do. It is how it is. What am I running for? Okay, so I've mentioned a couple times on the Eldritch Lorecast, which is a podcast that I'm on every week, with Ben Byrne, Sean Merwin, James Hake, and myself. So a fun little panel of people. We talk about D&D news, but frequently end up just delving into design philosophy, and I think that it's very fun. I think it is better for it. And I've mentioned a couple times that I have a sneaky little side project where I'm kind of doing a remix of the remix of Dragon Heist. And it's not even like, I don't really have like plans. I just know that I would like to run Dragon Heist as it could have been. Is what I'll call it. So if you're not familiar, Justin Alexander of the Alexandrian blog, great, super helpful blog full of very interesting things, fascinating insights into the game. At one point, Justin Alexander did a remix of Waterdeep Dragon Heist that kind of just mucked around with some of it to make the story structure a little bit... I don't know, more robust. So the kind of core of Waterdeep Dragon Heist is that there are 4 villains, and each one is associated with a season, and you and your players choose one season to play through, and that kind of decides who the villain will be for your game. And the others are present, but not significant. And so I don't have a plan. I'm like a dog chasing a car. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I can't really remember the line. But yeah, it's kind of, you know, choose your villain and then play through. And I have my things that I like about that, and I have my gripes with it. And the Alexandrian kind of did a remix so that you end up with all the villains kind of throughout the game. It's got so much great stuff. Really, really fascinating blog. Really recommend checking it out. But the thing that gets me about Dragon Heist is this seasonal thing that just gets dropped, right? Like it's significant maybe once throughout the whole piece. I mean, personally as well, I mean, it's wild to me to find out because I don't have the sort of background lore of Dungeons and Dragons as a game and all the settings and Forgotten Realms and blah, blah, blah. It was fascinating to me to find out that the Castellanters are the only villain that was, like, made up for Dragon Heist. Because the Castellanters, I mean, my apologies to the others, but the Castellanters are far and away the best villains in the book. They're so cool, their story is great. I was horrified when I read through and I realized that you may never even actually unlock their story. All the coolest stuff in the Castellanter storyline happens... only if every other possible thing has gone wrong. I mean, we'll get into it in a minute probably, but, you know, anyway. There's, you know, they've got Jarlaxle and others. This is, we're revealing how little I know about stuff. Yeah, I'm with you, Levi. The Castellanters are objectively the best villains in the book. I don't believe in humans having objectivity. I don't think it's possible. But in this one case, I'll make an exception. You regret not using them as the villain? Well, I mean, the good news is that the point of Dragon Heist is that you're meant to be able to play it multiple times using a different villain each time. I don't think it necessarily works that way in practice. But I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, why is this plot taking place over such a short period of time in the first place? Okay, I mean, okay, first thing, you know what? I say first things first, but we're like 5 things deep. But let me just say, can we touch on it right now? This is my least favorite trend in Wizards of the Coast published D&D campaigns, is their tendency to go, here's a really cool, exciting concept for a campaign. That happened 100 years ago. All right, they do it with this one where they go, Dragon Heist. The heist happened long before you got here. Why are you selling me on the concept of the Dragon Heist then? What? What's the point? Descent into Avernus, they're like, well, here you go. There was an angel who led a siege into hell. But that happened a long time ago and you're not involved in that. Like, what are you doing? Stop making up cool things and telling me about them and then telling me I can't participate. Stop it. I'm streaming 3 streams at a time. I literally can't even turn off the other ones. I literally can't. So this is a nightmare. I need YouTube to simplify. I don't know. I don't understand why they have this kind of, look at that. Or are these ones just, no, that's streamed. Okay, so I got to delete this. Give me just a second. So there's 2 old streams that weren't streams that are there, which I'll point out, neither of them are the scheduled stream, which never happened because every time I tried to go live with the scheduled stream, it just didn't work. I don't, literally, I want to live stream on YouTube. It is a better platform for me to be streaming on. It's, you know, it's where all of you are. It's my base. It's like, everything makes sense for me to stream on YouTube. But every time I try to do it, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, what a horrible, gee whiz. Live, gotta delete. Oh my gosh, it still says it's upcoming. It was meant to go live at 1:30, and it's, whatever. Who cares? Who even cares? Doesn't matter. Let's get rid of it. Boop, boop, boop. Let's delete those, just so that people don't get confused. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. Why wouldn't it let me delete them? Delete forever. There we go. That's very dramatic, but let's do it. I understand. Delete forever. I did not tick the box on the one that is live right now. So hopefully we are fine. If I disappear, you know what happened. So, thank you for letting me know that was happening, by the way. It's just a nightmare. But, Wizards of the Coast also has a nasty habit of telling the GM a lot of lore blurbs, but then follow the blurb with, but your player will never know this stuff and can't because it would break the plot. Yeah, it's just, oh my god. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that donation. I have a beverage of your choice on me. Thank you so much. Hayutapa. Haju. Now I've got to give the $10 back because I'm terrible at pronouncing your username. I mean, oh, gee. That reminds me, by the way, the last time I streamed was the 100,000 celebration stream where I was announcing, you know, the merch and the memberships and all sorts of things, and the memberships weren't working. It's because YouTube demanded that I click a button to announce memberships before it would let memberships work. They should be there now. Then I made the price as low as I possibly can. You get these cool little emotes that Mama Monstrosity made for us. Ping, ping, ping. There they are. And as we get more memberships, more of those get unlocked. So that's pretty cool. But yes, Dragon Heist. I just don't understand. It's like you tell me the title and I immediately go, awesome. We're making a band of criminals who are going to pull off a heist. And then you read it and it says no to any of those thoughts. And I think that that's boring. I'll be honest, 30% of my joy in sending a super chat is watching people try to pronounce my username. The J is pronounced as a Y. So Hayutapa? I don't know where the emphasis is. I'm putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Yeah, dragons are the coins. But also there does have to be a dragon. You cannot call it Dragon Heist. And I mean, there is a dragon. Don't get me wrong, there is a dragon. Yeah, there's a dragon, so it's fine. But you know, it's what I have a list that I'm working on of like what would be better names for D&D published campaigns. Because I think a lot of them also have bad names. Or things like, you know, descent into Avernus is quite a passive thing, right? It's a thing that happens to you. It's a descent into Avernus. Whereas I saw someone accidentally in a forum call it Siege of Avernus, and I was like, that's it. That's it. That's what it needs to be. That should be the name. That should be the plot. That should be everything. Whereas Dragon Heist, I think, is actually a great name. It has sort of an active noun, right? That's siege, heist. Those are active nouns. But whether they're accurate names is a different issue. So anyway, a thing that I've been working on the down low, and I haven't brought it up until now purely because, and don't get all excited about this or anything, but I kind of have in the back of my head that if I were to ever like record one of my games and turn it into entertainment for the internet, that this might be it. This might be the one. I'd want to run it once or twice first, but you know, I have that in the back of my head that this would make a good piece of entertainment. So part of my hesitancy to like bring this up was because I might turn it into something down the line. But I think I need to just kind of suck it up because you out there have just some of the coolest, best ideas. And when I get stuck on stuff like this, I mean, I find it really helpful to talk it through with people, you know, whether it be my brother or my cousin or you all, but yeah, you know, so I thought I might share some of the stuff I'm doing. And also, I mean, to anyone who's run Dragon Heist, I apologize. You're about to realize that what I'm talking about it doesn't really resemble Dragon Heist very much anymore in a lot of ways, because I have no respect for the law. No respect for the law, which is terrible. Ghost of Saltmarsh, see, haunting of Saltmarsh, an active noun. Yeah. I don't know, there are some titles in there that are like good, but I think could be better. And there are titles in there that I think are boring and need to be better. You know, kind of Princes of the Apocalypse, weirdly, I think is a boring name. It's got good words in it, but nothing about that tells me like what I will be doing, or yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's see if I've set this up correctly. Boom. I did. Hooray. All right. So, let me talk you through what I've got here for the moment. So, this is my list of inspo. This is my inspo board. Oh my god. Oh, give me a second. I just saw. Is this what it looks like for all of you? Let me just begin that for a minute. No, that's fine. Okay. You're probably fine. In my little preview of my stream, my corner logo is covering my face and it's really annoying, but it is what it is. So there's no way, Red Dev, there is no way that all of the good titles have already been used. No, they need to just try better. Oh, there's an interesting video about the history of Spelljammer and naming conventions in the 80s and 90s. See, Spelljammer I kind of like, right? Because it feels like a mishmash. It feels like stuff jammed together. And that's what I kind of like about the concept of the setting. But chucking the word spell in there keeps it fantasy, even though it feels a little bit spacey. Yeah, see, okay, that's exactly, Peter, you're right. I think the core issue with Dragon Heist is that the plot doesn't exist. I want to say it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't really exist. It's just the players have a tavern here, and then something explodes, and now I guess the players are meant to be invested. So that's, you know, It's not my thing. I personally think it makes much more sense to just have the players come. I guess it's because D&D officially don't want to like assume your character's backgrounds or anything like that, but I think it makes campaigns stronger if you know what you're coming in for, right? I think the Dragon Heist is stronger if you say you're a bunch of people who are going to do a heist. So on some level, you have to be chill with criminal activity and you have to have a reason that you need the money, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to be bad guys. It doesn't mean any of that. But you have to be, down with committing this crime in order to get the money. And whether that's just because you're desperate for the money because you owe a bunch of debts, or, a family member owes a bunch of debts, or, any number of things. C.A. McDivitt, I'm sorry that your entire experience of the stream was just me struggling with YouTube, but it was nice to have you. I think that it makes it stronger if you have some guidance for the characters' backstories and some guidance for the characters' goals. You don't have to control them, but just kind of giving them some element that pulls them into the story and pulls them together makes the whole thing stronger. I want yeah. Thank you, Marcus. I want the players' backstories to align with the game's plot. Makes sense. It's not even, they don't have to be bad guys. They can be doing it for a good reason, or it's kind of like in the original book, the idea is that there's these other people who want the money for evil reasons, and you want to stop them from getting the money. But I will admit that I personally find it a little bit unsatisfying that the game kind of requires you to not keep the money at the end. Like, you go through all this trouble, you get into the vault, you get the money, and then at the end they're like, and you give most of it away because you are goodies. And I'm like, well, what if they don't want to be goodies? What if this is, come on now. Yeah, it's, the heist is the thing. The heist is the thing. The heist should be the thing. But there's very little heisting in the thing. So I want it to be all heist. So these are my sort of inspirations that I want to draw from throughout. This is my sort of genre board. It includes, this is a great, I haven't looked at this list in a little while. So we're reading this together for the first time. National Treasure, for sure. That makes sense. And is that not another example of, like, you don't necessarily want to be committing the crime, but you find that you have to steal the Declaration of Independence to stop the bad guy, right? And so you do pull off a heist. You can have goodies in a heist movie. Morality, exactitudes of morality have no place in D&D. Let's be honest with ourselves right now. Breaking the law does not equal bad. Flying hellfish from The Simpsons. That's one of my go-tos. I draw on that all the time. All my life, all I've wanted is to have a group of friends who will enter into a deadly tontine with me so that the last person standing can win riches. Unfortunately, none of us have riches, which is kind of a sticking point. And also, no one else is willing to die for the tontine. But you know how it is. We're talking about D&D. We're talking about a remix on a remix of Dragon Heist is what we're talking about, Andrew. Heists are so badass that alignment is ignored. Yeah. So, yep, we've got the Flying Hellfish. That's one of my favorite points of reference that I will try to pull into everything ever. If you don't know the Flying Hellfish from The Simpsons, you're all over here. That's why I keep looking to that side. The Flying Hellfish was an episode of The Simpsons where it turns out that Grandpa Simpson, during World War II, he and his unit of soldiers discovered a bunch of art. And they sort of sealed it up and hid it away. And they each have a key. And you need all of the keys to unlock the secret final location of the safe full of rich stuff. And each one of them has died one at a time. And now only Grandpa Simpson and Mr. Burns are alive. And they have their keys. and it kind of becomes, you know, the further you go, the more likely people are to start killing each other to get this. I think it's based on some other movie, but yeah, and they all had a tattoo of the flying hellfish. That was their unit, so that's why flying hellfish is written there. If you're unfamiliar with that classic episode of The Simpsons, there was clearly one that I thought of and then forgot. No doubt that will be the most important inspiration for this whole thing. There you go. Leverage is on the list. Lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. There's a lot of fun sort of heist adjacent stuff. I wouldn't necessarily call it a heist movie, but it has heist adjacent business. Ravnica, the maze runners from Ravnica. There's kind of this race for the center of a maze in Return to Ravnica. The Rock starring, oh, thank you so much, Warhouse Bard. Oh, good night. Thank you. It was nice to have you. Thank you for the super chat. The Rock starring Nicolas Cage. I mean, they break back into Alcatraz. Excellent. How could you not? Da Vinci Code, for better or worse. That was, I think I added Da Vinci Code as just a general, like, the concept of Da Vinci Code. And then later on, I actually watched Da Vinci Code for the first time, and it was really bad. But there are elements of it that I'm just trying to, you know, fix my palette, right? That I'm going to be using to kind of build this stuff out. The Assassin's Tombs from Assassin's Creed 2. I specifically chose Assassin's Creed 2 because I think that's where you got the best ones. The Phantom, as in the film, with Billy Zane. And they've got the skulls, and the skulls point the way. That part specifically. The Da Vinci Code is just, I didn't need much from it. You know what I mean? I didn't need it to be great. I just needed it to make, you know, the bare minimum of sense. Jeez. The Goonies. No notes for past Dael. Good sources. I've not seen The Shadow. I have seen Hustle. I'd forgotten about Hustle. Good call. Yeah. So I've got this little note over here. This is regarding the Castellantas. Because I want all 4 bad guys happening at once and them to get whittled down depending on the player's actions. But I want to kind of flesh out their stuff that's going on. So for the Castellantas specifically, I want kind of that emphasis on the cultishness, the cultists. So the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., I think, handles the sort of cult vibe that I want really well, that kind of urban stuff. Yeah, and actually good. The Italian Job is a good call. I don't know why it's not on the list, because it is kind of the heist movie, is it not? Did I not write Ocean's 11 on this list? Y'all are over here shouting Ocean's 11, and you are right. Why isn't it on the list? Ocean's 11, Italian Job. Literally the 2 major heist movies. Just not even on the list. The Hot Fuzz Town Council, good call. And the Tritons from Veronica Mars are just kind of a like a fraternity, but like high schoolers. I don't know. But you know, kind of that rich people, devil worshippers thing as part of the palette for the Castellantas. I don't have much else there. Locations I want to hit are in here because, you know, it's like, island prison a la Alcatraz. I want to add in an island prison that they have to get into. So, okay. I mentioned the flying hellfish, right? So my replacement of the plot is basically that you're doing the dragon heist, the vault is hidden somewhere, but the main thing is that, a bunch of different people were involved in the making of the vault, and you need one key from each of the people who were originally involved in order to unlock it, right? So instead of so in the original book, as written, thank you, Wizards of the Coast, you get to the vault, and then you find out that you need to do X number of things to unlock the final door. And they're kind of like, you know, they're thinking like a dwarf without a beard, you know, it's bizarre sort of riddle solvy things, and I feel like it comes in really late and it's a little bizarre. I don't think it works. And then in the remix you've got the Stone of Galari. I don't know what it's called. I don't like its name. I don't like a lot of the names in official things. It feels like they've just jammed a bunch of letters together. But whatever that thing is, it's missing eyes. So in the Alexandrian remix, you have to collect the 3 eyes. I've just expanded that. The whole thing is just get all the keys to get into the vault, right? There's like 7 keys or whatever. Galore. Thank you. And so and you know, also, by the way, I need to say out loud, no shade to the people who wrote Dragon Heist. They worked really hard. They've got a lot of great stuff in there. I know at least one of them personally. And on top of that, we need to acknowledge that that there are always other elements at play with how these things come together. I just think that I wouldn't run it as written, so I would have to rewrite it to do it, and that's what this is about. But to clarify my objectively, the Castellantis need to be stopped, but you want the bad guys for not letting them murder innocents. Right. Yes. Oh, Hasbro corporate. Bad. What was I talking about? Yeah, so you got to get all the keys. It's like 7 keys, and I just want to have the opportunity to do lots of different kinds of heists that we're familiar with from texts, right? So the idea of like, here's Alcatraz, you have to get in there in order to, you have to get into and then out of this maximum security prison to steal a key from the warden or whoever. I think that would be a ton of fun. You know, there's your rock episode. Then I would love to do at some point, you know, someone's moving one of the keys and you have to get the key while it's in transit because either end of the thing is too hard to get into. And, you know, you can't force all of these things, but, you know, just building up different kinds of heists, I think would be really, really fun. Hello, Germany! At 6 a.m. Why are you awake? My goodness. I want to do a mausoleum beneath the cemetery because that is just cool. Let's be honest with ourselves. You've got a whole like cemetery in there. You've got mausoleums. There is one version of reality in Dragon Heist proper where there is a mausoleum that you visit, but I want to make that like a significant thing. And the Blue Alley, I think the Blue Alley has a lot of cool potential, and I want to pull it into this one rather than putting it in. What's the one that you meant to do? Dungeon of the Mad Mage? Okay, this is me just coming up with faction names, so don't even worry about that. So, this is a bunch of notes I've taken from the book itself, and I've just kind of taken bits that I like and highlighted bits I want to change. All sorts of stuff is going on there, but don't even worry about it, really. I've also got really quite a significant focus on holidays. Because I think that if I want this to focus on the idea of, the mummy's a good idea. If I want this to focus on the idea of, you know, the year is passing, and these different things are happening, you know, it's the 2 things that are significant for this remix of the remix is the 4 villains happening at the same time and the full year passing. And so if we're doing that, the focus on the holidays, which are kind of a side note in the original book, some of them come up, but for the most part, they're kind of background stuff. I want to foreground some of the holidays and make them really significant. So my ideal version of this would work in terms of basically doing 4 different sort of chapters of the campaign, right? And it would just be sort of 10 sessions at a time. So it would be like, let's sit down, play 10 sessions, that's 1 season. And then, you know, plan out the next season, and play it in sort of 4 lots of 10 sessions, and see how it goes. So amongst those, I've sort of started building up this calendar of city events. I've got things like the Legionnaires' Day Parade, I think would be a really cool, and some of these I've changed the names of the holidays. So if you half recognize one of the names, it's because I've changed stuff. Okay, I've had an idea, Eric says. You can tie in one of the holidays with one of the keys. Make a key a central thing for one of the holiday traditions. Very interesting. I like that. Okay, so we've got a couple options there as well, because there's some interesting stuff. So the Legionnaires' Day Parade, I think, could be cool in terms of... so an Australian holiday exists called Anzac Day, which is usually celebrated with sort of a... I don't want to call it a parade. I guess it is a parade, but it's you know, soldiers and, you know, I don't know, firefighters and Girls Brigaders and whoever do kind of a march down the main street, and then you have a sort of memorial service at dawn, the dawn service. But, yeah, I wanted to play with that as kind of a spring holiday. And I thought that it'd be cool to kind of play with these holidays as things that kind of either muck up the heists or become significant in the planning of heists, right? So maybe the enemies decide that they're gonna, you know, move one of the keys during the parade while the streets are clogged and no one's gonna notice, or, you know, things like that. None of it's like locked in, but these are kind of the concepts. I think the Fleetswake Regatta is an interesting one for what Eric was saying, because there is something in the sort of Volo's guide at the back of Dragon Heist that talks about, is it called Fleetswake? Is that what it's actually called? Or did I make that up? I don't remember which ones are which. But there's sort of a thing where lots of treasure is thrown into the harbor, and anyone who tries to steal it, it goes very poorly. But I thought it'd be cool if in the middle of the Fleetswake Regatta, you have this this kind of thing where Fleetswake is real. Okay, great, thank you, Ben. There's kind of this section where all of the treasure is thrown. Thank you so much. Wait, I don't have my glasses. Turdmans, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much for the super chat. The Fleetswake, while everyone's throwing these kind of tributes of treasure and stuff down into this one spot in the harbor, you have to kind of go down and steal from it, because that's where one of the keys is. I thought that could be a really cool thing to play with. Oh, yes! Night hype. I noticed the gala. Gotta love the high society gathering trope. I love it. And I mean, how good is the timing of this? I want it to be like a full-on sort of Met Gala type event, where it's like full on just like over the top costuming, super rich people, and you have to kind of infiltrate the party. Like, how do you get into that? I mean, let's be, I have seen Ocean's 8. I didn't hate it, but it was, has anyone seen Ocean's 8? It's kind of bizarre because it almost works, but then doesn't. It's like the actual banter they actually kind of nail, and it's fun and it's good. But then it's just got really weird stuff in terms of like the actual heist plot being more complicated than it needed to be and not making sense. I don't know. Anyway, it almost won me over, but not quite. Anyway, I think that you could do a really good sort of Met Gala style. You know, you have to get into the party in order to steal this thing. KB Tibbs, Ocean's 8 needed to be a bit gayer. I mean, I don't know if it could get much gayer, but you're not wrong. There's a great episode of New Girl where they sneak into the prince's party. If they sneak into prince's party, I forgot, I've seen that episode. This is Lou Buffin, by the way. Everyone check out her channel. She has a great channel. Yeah. I think that's true, Joe. I think that's true. It clearly, Ocean's 8 had the chops to be a good movie, but kind of let itself down. It's like it was a little too self-conscious about being an Ocean's movie. I don't know. Nonsense, it can always be, yeah. You know what? When you're right, you're right. So, what other ones do we have in here? I mean, I've got a couple ones that I'm like, they'd be fine, but I'd rather put the emphasis on something else, right? So the running, I think, is fun. You can do like a running of the bulls style thing, but I don't know whether I like it as much as some of the other ones, so I don't know whether I would necessarily end up putting that much emphasis on it. And the other cool thing is being able to use some of these, maybe not all of them, but some of these as like season openers or season closers if we're trying to do this sort of 10 session block seasonal things that just kind of, you know, hit these kind of boom, we've got cool stuff happening, make it feel really eventful. And Dragon Down, I think I changed the name, so I think that might be my own name. But there's a holiday in the Dragon Heist book that talks about this kind of celebration of dragons that have been slayed in the past. And I thought, is this not the perfect like finale for Dragon Heist? You should have to actually fight a dragon to get to the Horde, because that's cool. That's part of the fantasy. You should actually have to fight a dragon, and you should ideally do it, you know, out on a mountainside while there are also these effigies of dragons being shot out of the sky with flaming arrows in the middle of winter. Is that not like, come on, that's perfect. I want that to be the finale. I want that to be like how it ends, is that there's all these fake dragons coming down, falling in flames around you, and you're having to fight an actual dragon and smote its whatever on the mountainside. What's that quote? Tell me more about this Black Sails ship theft. Good night, good night. Thank you for joining us, David. Smote is ruin upon the mountainside. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, it's just that, you know, I want it to be kind of, you know, if we're doing seasonal, I think that holidays need to be great interactive set pieces, and I think that weather, we've talked about both of these things on the channel, weather needs to be this great sort of evocative element. Thank you, thank you. I will remember to hydrate. I will do my best. Well, that's interesting, Eric. Another idea, and maybe the spirit of the dragon gets a small debuff every time an effigy is destroyed. Interesting. So you tried the dragons. Well, I hope that you enjoyed it. I think it was a lot of fun. I got to try, not a full one. I was running I ran a little one shot for my mum and my sister and my brother. My mum was like, oh, I want to play D&D again. And we thought we were going to have kind of a week where we could, you know, play out a few different sessions. But it turned out that there was like one day that everyone had the night free. And so we ended up running just a one shot, just three of them in the party. And so I had kind of this big plan. I was taking Dragon of Ice by a peak, and I was, you know, just boiling it down to just the best bits. And then I ended up having to cut most of it just to get it down to a one night only kind of a deal. But I did run a version of my Altered Dragons, and it was a lot of fun. But it was tricky, kind of making a level 1 version of that. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. What is the name of that thing? That book. It's I keep wanting to say Ruby Citadel because that's what it was in Dusk, but that's not what it's called. Unseen Citadel? Is that what it's called? Or is that what it was based on? Citadel? You all know the one that I'm talking about, the one that like Justice and stuff worked on. Yeah, well, anyway, you know what I mean. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be great. Radiant Citadel, thank you. Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that one because I think that it is exactly the kind of thing that that people do need in terms of, you know, like someone expresses an interest and you want to give them just a short taste of like, here's some D&D, but have it be evocative, have it be interesting, have it, you know, be a fun little plot, but still short. I think that that's going to fill a kind of a void in that space. Okay, so I have over here, I don't know if I've even changed their name, so let's go to factions for a second, because I want to talk. So we've got House Castellanter and the Cultists that we kind of already touched on. I'm not changing a heap about that. I think the trickiest thing that's going to happen with the Castellanters is that the original Day of the Damned happens after they've got the loot from the vault, which makes sense. Oh, hey, kia ora! But is tricky because, you know, it's kind of... a lot of things have to go wrong for this to happen, which sucks because it's a really cool event. So the Castellanters get all the money. So here we go. This event occurs only if the Castellanters obtain the gold from the Vault of Dragons, which by this point you're kind of meant to know that the Castellanters are baddies because they've already been sending demons and things. So the demons, there's this whole chase sequence with a bunch of devils and stuff. And so you have to kind of fail the... Oh, hey, VJ, how's it going? You kind of have to fail a bunch of different stuff in a row in order for the Castellanters to have the money. I guess there is a way that isn't really written about that, like, if you still think they're goodies, you could give them the money. But it's just really disappointing because it's really cool. They've got this whole thing set up where they've invited all these people for dinner, and then they're gonna, you know, murder them. And it's horrible, and it's got this very sort of folkloric aspect of, you know, it's something like just shy of 100 souls and just shy of 1 million coins, something like that, which is very folkloric, you know, it's like a year and a day, that sort of a thing. And so, oh, I didn't even know Matt was streaming. My apologies to Matt. Although, then again, no, it works out for me. It works out for me. It just means that people come from him to me. That's fine. I'm not exactly taking away his viewers. So, my apologies to everyone, by the way. I'm a little bit sick, so my voice isn't the best. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really cool kind of event. I would tweak it a little bit, but I think that the tricky thing is how do you make this happen ideally soon enough that the players encounter it, right? Yeah, fun dark. So what have I written here? I literally don't remember. Let's find out together. My own rendition: a regular tithe to hell must be paid. Makes sense. The Castellanters have been paying from their own coffers, but they're beginning to realize that they're going to run out of money. If they had the Vault of Dragons, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay. So that quote there is the idea of, like, you know, the reveal of the players might think that they've sold their soul to a devil, but actually it turns out that they've sold the souls of their children. Spoiler alert. But if they sold the souls for money, why would they be running out of money? So this is me clearly working out what their motivations are. If the tithe to hell is ongoing, how can the heroes stop it once and for all? Maybe doing one huge sacrifice at once pays the debt all at once. I like the imagery of the gold coins having to be spilled into the pool of blood rather than this business of straightforward poison and sacrificial bowls super far apart. Make it a real ritual. I'm clearly very judgmental in my note-taking. So that there's still time to save the people. It should be that the gold is scattered first and then doused with blood. Okay, so clearly the things I'm thinking of there are like, what is powerful imagery, but then how do you still not make the players feel bad, right? So that idea of you're scattering gold into this pool of blood of 100 innocents or whatever, but it doesn't feel good as a player to be like, oh, well, we missed it. We didn't save the 100 innocents. Hey, MCDM raid, how's it going? I'm assuming an unofficial raid. I assume that he was live on Twitch. Because as it turns out, we all learnt the hard way that streaming on YouTube is still nigh on impossible. Judgmental or evocative? ¿Por qué no las dos? Okay, how do we make this fit the story pre-vault? It's in big letters, so you know I'm very concerned about it. Past Dael was like, this is the crux of the thing. There have to be 3 cool ending possibilities for A, if they're defeated first. Who's they? Who's they? Past Dael, please clarify. B, if they're defeated second. Oh, okay, I'm talking about in terms of the 4 major bad guy factions. That's what I'm talking about. So A, if the Castellantas are defeated first. B, if they're defeated second. C, if they're the last baddie standing. So part of this idea of the year long is that you're kind of, as things go along, depending on the player actions, other sort of contenders for the vault are kind of eliminated as you go, which is true as well of the Alexandrian remix, I believe. But you kind of, you take them out of the running. They fall behind in keys and whatever. And so I need to have some cool version of this that makes sense for each of those different stages, so that you can still kind of get that experience without it having to be them at the end. If I make it a broad strokes 4-step plan, then I can have a major progression point hit at the end of each season. She's very confident in that. Yeah, well, it is. Oh, hey, Matt. What? Okay, all right, Matt. Well, if you'd been streaming on YouTube, then you could have also raided because they just implemented raids. Actually, you probably couldn't have. It sounds like they've implemented raids, but they don't really work. But thank you for the pseudo raid. It's just as meaningful. It's the thought that counts. Welcome everyone from the pseudo raid. We're just talking about just kind of I'm mucking around with some notes that I've been making for a long time about I want to run Dragon Heist, but I don't want to run Dragon Heist as it currently exists. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Locon. Locon's got a really, really good idea. Yeah, Matt, you're right. That's my mods tell me the same. Locon says maybe it's an act of desperation when they realize that they're losing, and I think that is it. I think that has to be kind of the thing for the Castellantas, because that's what makes them so compelling as bad guys, is that there is this kind of push and pull between their sort of greed and also their desperation. They want their cake and to eat it too. They make the deal with the devil, but also they don't want their kids to die. It's not like they don't care about their kids. They absolutely do. Yeah, redirect is a bad name. It's not a bad name, it's just a boring name. I think that is true of a lot of the features of YouTube streaming. I believe it'll get there. I believe it'll get better, but, it is what it is. So that's the Castellantas and some thoughts on the Castellantas. I want to really emphasize the cultists throughout, and I don't want there to be an absolute connection early on between the cultists and the Castellantas. So then I've got Manshoon and what I have called the Grey Strangers. So in the actual book, someone's going to know this better than I am because I've been working on this for so long, I don't remember the truth. But in the actual book, there's a faction called the Xanatharim, right? Am I missing a separate? There's one faction that is kind of split into 2 different mini factions, which I, as a person who doesn't know the lore of D&D, find extremely confusing, and I don't like it. So I remember the Xanatharim existing, but I might also be mixing them up with a different faction. But I know Manshoon. I looked up Manshoon, who was a wizard who had a lot of clones, and this is a clone of Manshoon who is doing things. It's a little confusing, and what's his face? James of MCDM James has actually a separate supplement that he wrote for DM's Guild that kind of fills in an extra faction of shape changers who are trying to take over the Masked Lords of Waterdeep, and I kind of like that plot better for Manshoon. So I just kind of changed his faction to be a different faction, who I'm currently calling the Grey Strangers. Who knows if that'll stay? Yeah, I just am not. Yeah, that's it, Arash. Manchun wants to make a splinter Zentarum group, and I don't find that particularly compelling. As a person who already barely understands or cares about the Zentarum, I don't really care if a clone of a wizard makes an extra set of Zentarum. That seems boring to me. So as a person who complains about things, I'm changing that up. So yeah, you're kind of right, Alex, that the factions in the Forgotten Realms are kind of just the colors from MTG. I have seen so I think the Zentarum have, I think the Zentarum and maybe the Harpers also have a slight presence in the Dragon of Ice Spire Peak plotline, and it's kind of cool seeing them show up elsewhere, but I don't know, I just think it's a little bit boring, particularly when we've already got another faction that's using the Zentarum. So I want to switch that up. I want to basically use James's sort of extra faction sort of motivation and stick it on Manchun and his guys. And I kind of want them to be sort of... There's a lot of different groups that are basically spies. I want these guys to be the kind of spies. I want them to be the people who have... Word ahead, star player! Thank you, I will take that compliment. It is, I am the star player. Don't look at the others, don't look at them. Don't look at all the things they do and all the monsters they kill. It's me. It's me. Levelis does the most. Yeah, I kind of want to differentiate the groups a little bit more, and so I want to give Manchun and the Grey Strangers. If you have better names for them, by the way, for this faction, hit me up in the chat, because you can see I've got different options down here. The Bitter Intent, Sunscars, Greysmiths I was considering for a while. That seemed fun. Wind Crawlers, Stranger Skins. I kind of like Stranger Skins. Shadow Shifters. But I wanted that idea. See, here we go. Magic Assassins and Cutthroats and Thieves, right? I want that to be their thing, and I want to not have it really happen with the others. Oh, gee, I've got pins and needles in my leg. Oh, ooh, ah, oh, ooh, terrible. What have I written here? Give them the motives of the shape changes. Like I said, he wants to supplant the Lord's Alliance with fakes. And then I've got notes to myself. Okay, but why does he need the vault for that? How does money achieve that end? Maybe they don't need money. Maybe they need the tech. Maybe there are magic items in the vault that will help them achieve that goal. So this is, you can see kind of a little glimpse into how I work as well here. This is kind of a very mild version of it. I will kind of write very... stream of consciousness-y. I'm like, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, and then I question it, and I just do it all in sentence form, and just it becomes like a back and forth question and answer session, which I think is why I find these kinds of sessions talking to you all so helpful, because it really is that same process, right, but with more brains than just mine. He needs the dragon out of the way. Mike! That is an interesting thing. I'm going to write it down here. I don't know whether the good thing about that is that as a concept is interesting, and I could find a way to apply it to lots of others. So someone needs the dragon out of the way. Let's write that down. That could be something. Yeah, well, it's just that I want these guys to be like, I want their interest to be far more political, right? Because I'm kind of doing that thing that I've talked about in lots of other places, you know, the social, political, economic, religious, and military, right? So we get different flavors of motivations. Dale really out here coming up with one of the coolest names for faction and then saying, let me know if you think of something better. I mean, I don't know, because Grey Stranger to me makes me think of like Odin and Gandalf, you know, so I don't know whether it fits exactly. Yeah, MERPS definitely was never a different acronym. No, I talk about the SPERM acronym and how useful it is in terms of different sort of social things, but it's also really helpful for coming up with NPCs within factions. It's handy coming up with different factions within a city. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is differentiate the flavors of motivation by using that same system. So we know that the Castellantas, they're motivated very much by the sort of the monetary aspect, at least in terms of in fact, I think I've got a different document somewhere that covers this, but at least in terms of their original motivation from the book, it's money and it's religious, right? Because they're devil worshippers. They've got that kind of thing going on. So I want this to be kind of, you know, the political aspect. They're really coming after the political leads of Waterdeep and messing around with that stuff. Okay, Josh. Okay, that's good though, because hey, aloha. Because I am thinking that it will be in James's sort of supplement. It is a lot of doppelgangers and shapeshifters and stuff. So I was kind of trying to come up with names that kind of you know, have that thread. I think the fact that Manchun is a clone as well kind of fits into that idea. So okay, face dancer, interesting. Guiding hand, grey maskers. Yeah. To be fair, it's not fair of me to be like, it's sperm, don't call it merps, when a lot of you are probably going to get auto-modded. The auto-mod's going to come after you for saying sperm. We'll see how it goes. But, yeah, and I wanted to give the Blue Alley to them because I feel like it'd be kind of a cool thing to, you know, strip away a lot of the kind of fluff around the Blue Alley and just keep that idea of like, there are these blue tiles that if you follow them into this alleyway, you end up in a building that no one knows exists. And it's kind of the home of these sort of magical assassins and spies and stuff. I think that that's really cool. And I think that that should be a significant element of the ongoing campaign. I don't think that that should be a kind of, is this for Avernus? No. I've been kind of planning a sort of Dragon Heist remixed campaign. Who knows if it'll ever actually happen, but it's what I've been working on and I wanted to share it with you all and get your thoughts on things. But yeah, because the Blue Alley is kind of a throwaway reference that is not actually involved in Dragon Heist as a campaign. And I think that if I'm doing lots of different heists, I think that it should be, because it's a cool and interesting location. Why would we not use it? Oh, okay. Okay, groovy slushy truck. Maybe there's a cloning machine in the vault that Manchun wants access to. Kidnapping the real person and replacing them with a clone is supervillain material. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Well, okay, so it's interesting that you mentioned that, Daniel, because people will be disappointed to note in my list down the side here that I don't have Xanathar as a bad guy. Yeah. Not only did I not realize for many years that Xanathar was a beholder, but I also just don't really like Xanathar very much. And it's not that Xanathar is bad. Xanathar is fine. It just kind of clashes with the tone I'm looking for. To have, you know, a sort of silly goldfish-loving beholder. And other people can keep him, that's fine. But am I going to put him in my game? No. Oh, this is interesting. Was the original Manchun part of the Tontine? Did this clone inherit his key? Intriguing concept. Oh, Ben coming out with the divisive takes. Xanathar is honestly so boring, says Ben. I decline to announce my opinion on the matter. But, you know, for me, I wasn't a big Beholder fan until I did my, you know, Beholder new approach video. And then I suddenly was like, oh, actually, you know what? I have discovered the way in which Beholders fit into my world. And it's not like this game would even be taking place in my world, but I'm now attached to that idea of Beholders as being very, very much alien to this world and being, like, super detached from it. So having a beholder who is a crime boss, for me, it just doesn't vibe. But that's okay. I mean, we all have our things, right? Here we have, so this is interesting. I wanted to have 4 major factions. Where's my 4th major faction? I don't know. I wanted to have 4 major factions and, where's the day planner? Castellantis? I guess not. I guess I've only got 3. I wanted to have a bunch of major factions and then a couple of minor factions, right? So you're competing with the major factions ultimately, but if you don't also keep tabs on what's going on with the lower level factions, then that becomes like a significant thing in the late game, right? So they're just other things that you kind of got to deal with on the way through. But Logan also doesn't like Xanathar. Ooh. See? We're all coming out of the woodworks now. We exist. We can support one another. So my final major faction, you will note, has absolutely no notes written. I only even came up with a nickname for them fairly recently. This is the Collector and the Nimble Rights, because I was trying to think of... Unfortunately, I did kind of cut out as well Jarlaxle. Not because I don't like Jarlaxle, but because Jarlaxle and the sort of disguised drow ended up filling a similar sort of role as Manchun, and I haven't kind of figured out whether I want to... Like, I've got the Collector, right? I'm using a lot of nicknames here, but the Collector might end up being Jarlaxle or might not. I haven't decided yet. If y'all have any ideas here, please hit me with them. But Jarlaxle having this, you know, his cool sort of ship of curiosities, and he's got the carnival going on and all these things. I kind of liked the idea of having someone in the mix who's, you know, that trope of the sort of ominous collector, the person who has, you know, he's you know, just trying to get one of everything. And, you know, the idea that it might draw in someone who is wealthy and powerful in a kind of mercantile way, just to hear that this is like a collector's item, right? To get the 7 keys, to get whatever's in the vault would be a significant, you know, kind of... It's a nice little notch on your belt if you're a collector. He's Brainiac, yeah. And even though it kind of doesn't necessarily, it's not a super strong heist trope, I think that it might have a way of fitting in. And I liked the Nimble Rights in the original campaign plot, but I didn't like the way that they were used. So I kind of... in the Alexandrian remix, there's this thing of the Nimble Rights being used to spy on people, and I thought that this might be a cool little mix to have the Collector, who might be Jarlaxle, using the Nimble Rights to do that sort of stuff, but also fit in with that idea of like, ooh, look at me, I have all the fanciest things in the world, including this army of robots. Good luck, Chaotic Gudra. You now know when it was that you typed your message of being 45 minutes in the past. So, are we happy for the Collector to be Jarlaxle? I want the wisdom of crowds here, because I don't remember what my plans were for the Collector last time I was here, because I didn't write anything down. Good note-taking, Dael. But do we like the Collector being Jarlaxle? Okay, Jarlaxle. Okay, so it could be a red herring, could be... Okay, but clearly people who know Jarlaxle like the idea of Jarlaxle being involved. So we're including Jarlaxle in some capacity. And I'll give Jarlaxle these points. I quite like his name, which is rare for me in a published D&D book. Yeah, I mean, kind of like that. Yeah, like the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's such a, prevalent trope. It's existed in a million different things, but I know the hat is great. The hat is magnificent. He's on the list. He's on the list. He can keep his hat. Yeah, it's true. I mean, Joel Axel and his circus can easily make the game 10% gayer when needed. It's true. So those are the major factions. We'll have to come back to the Collector at some point because I got nothing here. But these are my minor factions that I was talking about. So we've got, I'm not super sure of these gang names. And for people who saw my game that I played in for Gygax Day, Gygax Week, GaryCon. Oh my gosh, what did my brain do? You can tell I've got the flu. When I was playing at GaryCon, I played in a game and I had to come up with kind of NPCs from my background on the fly. And I'd been working on this and I didn't have time to come up with something new, so I just threw the Gallagher Greens into my background. They ended up being a significant element of the one-shot, or at least the first half of the one-shot. So, I mean, if you watched that, this is what that was from. But this is gang warfare just going on in the city, right? So the idea is that, you've got the different kind of, my brain, what are they called? Zones. I'm going with the word zones. You're with me. You understand. The different zones of the city, and you've got, the heroes are set up in their crummy little plot of land. I kind of like the idea of the game start being, you've managed to buy some property as a cover, as sort of a front, a base of operations in the city, but it's just the worst piece of property that was up for sale, and it's the, whatever the equivalent of Trollskull Manor is. And so they're in, this zone. They're in their zone of the city. Let me go over here and it'll tell me what it's called. The Southern Ward? South Ward? Must be. Anyway, so there, you've got your gang from the South Ward, and you've got your gang from the Dock Ward, and they have their little feud, right? And I want, when the fireball goes off, or my version of the fireball going off, I want it to kind of set off this gang war. I want there to be someone who was disguised, one of the, I've still got Zents written over there, but the Grey Strangers or the Stranger Skins or whatever we end up calling them. One of them was kind of in the area looking for, okay, let me just tell you what it is. I actually have this whole little bit, this little sort of inciting incident, kind of mapped out a little bit. So let me just tell you what it is rather than dancing around it. So, the players are in town. They've got a heist to find some keys, but there's also a significant element that is needed to do the final thing that points to where the vault is. So the keys are needed to open the vault, and you need this gem, which is the equivalent of the Eye of Galar, or Galore. You need that thing to actually identify where the vault is hidden. And so they're in town looking for the keys, but they've also got a lead on a dude who has the gem. And that guy thinks that he's got a fake, but he doesn't actually have a fake. And so everyone is converging on this dude at once. So the heroes have, been in contact, tried to get in contact with him, and he's like, sorry, I've got a better offer. It's already sold. And so he's going to meet up with probably the Castellantas who are trying to just straight up buy it. And then at the same time, you've got all these other people kind of converging on the same spot. And one of those people is one of the Stranger Skins, or the Grey Skins, or the Grey Strangers, or whatever, who is disguised as one of the gang members from this area. But when the explosion goes off, and the various people are killed, there's this confusion over whether it was an attack by the rival gang on them, right? So that's what kind of is bringing the gang into the gangs into the mix of what you have to deal with kind of going on. So that's the deal with them. The gang names that I'm running with at the moment are the Gallagher Greens, or the Gallaghers. They are known for wearing green, like that's how you identify them, and the Riders of the Dog. But I'm not sure about those gang names. I mean, it's tricky because I have my go-to gang names that I like, but I hate always going back to the same two, you know? Because my usual go-tos are the Chokehill Jacks, the Jacks, and I've got, you know, the Lenehan crime family, and I mean, I've got a couple others like the King of Tides Lowlives and stuff like that, but I don't love doing the same thing over and over again. I like coming up with new stuff. Why don't I use Pavlova? Is that what you're asking? I'm not calling the gang the Pavlovas. The Midnight Suns. That's pretty cool. Jets and Charts. Classic. They probably wouldn't be called the Gallagher Greens. Like, that's a very formal name. Yeah, I like the Chokehill Jacks. I like them. They have, like, a Jackrabbit brand as their sort of defining thing. But yeah, it's kind of like the formal title that maybe the feds give them, but they would just be the Gallaghers, right? Like, the idea for them is that it's kind of more of a sort of, I don't know, old school Boston crime family vibe, because they're in the docks. I'm not really looking for variations on these names. I'm looking for just names, right? If you have a totally different gang name idea, chuck it at me, rather than variations on these ones. Because if they're still the Gallaghers, then I'm just going to call them the Gallaghers, you know. So let's see what I've written here. The Zent seen limping away from the scene of the explosion was dressed as one of these criminal low-life gang members. That seems very judgmental as a statement. In the other gang's territory, or in their own, but the fireball was presumed to be a drive-by. Interesting. All we know is it weren't one of ours, and we're very invested in learning more. So yeah. They run in the Southern Ward, which is the smallest gang-run district in the city. This non-member has stoked a war with the neighbouring blank gang. See, I'm having trouble with names. Who run the Docks Ward and view the incident as a deliberate attack. So yeah, this stuff is kind of happening in the background, this gang war breaking out. But I think I had at some point a really vague idea that if they don't get dealt with earlier on, that towards the end, they end up combining their efforts in order, like if they are left to their own devices for long enough, they eventually work out what's going on and decide that they will kind of join forces in order to get in on the hunt for the vault. So that's called the Black Rose Conclave. Ooh, very dramatic. The Daybreak Boys. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it. I mean, I come from a town where genuinely the actual real gangs from my hometown were always just like, place you're from, boys. The lack of creativity, I'm telling you. The riffraff, kind of like it. Okay, we got some cool ideas in here. The Black Hearts, I like the Black Hearts. The Cobra Kai is alright. Yeah, you know, it's kind of, I like them to be slightly different takes on what gangs can look like, and I want there to be a kind of an imbalance of power between them. Yeah. You have gangs? The sentence won't make sense to you, Ben, but I'm from Nowra. Yes. Yes, we had gangs. The Deep Dwellers. Yeah, all right, we got some cool ideas here. So that's what's going on there. To continue the tour, William Crow. So this was kind of an idea. I think that every heist text has to have your sort of Catwoman figure, right? But I like the idea. I was looking up a bunch of actual, and you know, this is pretty dodgy research, honestly, but it's not so much about the truth of the thing, it's about the concept, right? I was looking up a bunch of actual cat burglars and found this guy, Hajime Karasuyama, which is a pseudonym, of course, but the name is extremely common, right? And it's kind of like a common given name paired with a name that means like crow or raven or, you know, things like that. So I kind of like the idea of this this cat burglar who's known broadly as William Crow, right? It's just kind of an evocative name, and people don't know anything about the cat burglar, so they just give it, a bunch of different names. William Crow, the Duke of Eyes, the Bell Street Spectre, and this person has just been going in and, deliberately hitting really high-profile targets. But, of course, they are actually, a woman. Very, it's really tropey, but I'm kind of here for it. So I kind of, I don't know, I like the idea of introducing this sort of rogue element into the mix. There's a character kind of like it in Dragon Heist. Yeah, the Black Viper. I kind of liked that idea from Dragon Heist. But I wanted something a little bit more meaty from it, right? Like, I like the idea of drip feeding it in slowly, like mentions of plays that are being put on about this gentleman burglar. Or, people at some of the highfalutin parties will say things like, be careful, you never know, you might be dancing with a stranger at the masquerade and it might be the spectre. So there's kind of this hype, this folklore around the cat burglar, because that's kind of what really happened when cat burglars started to appear. It just became very, ooh, like it was exciting. Like people weren't particularly upset about the cat burglar as long as they weren't burgling them. Does that make sense? Like everyone was very excited about the idea of like, ooh, they slip in silently in the night through the upstairs. But there's so much skill involved and it's so mysterious that people kind of were excited about it more than they were freaked out. But the idea that there's this, I'm not against making them non-binary, but I don't know. I just kind of like this particular, I don't know. In my head, this character is a woman. I don't know. But of course, I mean, any of these characters could be NBs. So never don't throw out the concept. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of a character who's not a goodie, not a baddie. They're just there to steal stuff. And I kind of wanted them to be not interested so much in the vault itself, because that's like a lot of work. That's a big deal. But if they keep, I already put Dael Axel in. I'm not passing up the opportunities to make the game gayer. How dare you? And who's to say that she's not gay? All right, you don't know. But the idea that she's not after the vault, she just knows that if she gets the keys, she can sell them for a lot of money. And it's, kind of staying just outside of the zone of the hunt for the heist. So yeah, anyway, that's the kind of idea there. Here's a bunch of names I was throwing around. Evelyn Farrier, Eleanor Blakeney, just name concepts, checking them out there. Because it's the kind of character that in a lot of texts, the hero would end up being it's just business. The hero would end up being a lot sort of really attached to the Batman Catwoman thing, but I don't know whether it would work that way in a D&D game. I don't know whether it would, but I think it'd be interesting to see. I think it'd be interesting to see play out in terms of like potentially have them meet the character at a social kind of encounter and see how it goes down. Yeah, you want them to be a bit classy. But yeah, it's basically taking the Black Viper concept and just kind of, amping it up because I think it's cool. Yes, that's it, KB Tibbs. The vault, too big, too much heat. They don't want that heat. They just want to, make their cash and get out. So that's the deal with William Crow. And then a pseudo-faction, not really a major player, but not every, but, I feel like a lot of good heist movies have that character who's the, like, beleaguered federal agent who, it's kind of like The Fugitive, right? What's his face in The Fugitive? They're like, I'm just doing my job and I'm hunting down whoever I can catch. It's like the person who is just trying to catch a culprit, not necessarily handle the whole thing. But as the story unfolds and they see how much Tommy Lee Jones, thank you, I don't know why I can never remember his name. I always call him K in my head because of Men in Black. But you get to this point in the movie where it kind of tips and they kind of realize that it's much bigger than they thought it was. And so then they have to kind of go after everything. So I spent a lot of my time trying to come up with a title that is the equivalent of special agent for a fantasy setting. So, I mean, yes, technically like Mark Ruffalo in Now You See Me, Ben. I guess. I hate that movie. And I hate Mark Ruffalo's character in that movie. And I will fight him. With my teeth and my knees. Yeah, Inspector, I think, has promise. But I don't know if it gives the impression of a high enough rank. Right? Like, Special Agent is such a good, vague term that gives the impression that this is higher up. So, well, I can't promise I won't use things other than my teeth and my knees. I just feel like, emphasis on the teeth and the knees. Yeah, I don't know. It's got that really, it's so vague, but it just gives you a concept of status and official law person, law enforcement person. And I find it really hard to find a fantasy equivalent of that. Night Inquisitor is kind of where I ended up landing, but it doesn't roll off the tongue the way that Special Agent does. You don't like Cooper as a surname. That was a reference to Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks. Justica. No, but Magistrate feels more like, Law and Order, Magistrate feels like whichever one of those is the court section. I actually literally don't understand. Order, I guess. Special Investigator. Marshal? I kind of like Marshal. The interesting thing about Marshal is that it's got typically such a sort of Wild West vibe, but, yeah. City Marshal, Special Investigator, Special... Watch Marshal? High Marshal? Because you can kind of get away, there's kind of an overlap tonally that lets you get away with some Wild Westy vibes when you're swapping over to fantasy. See, Black Knife is a cool title, but it seems almost too specific, right? Like, it feels like like a specific role. It feels like, oh, well, that person's like, I don't know, an assassin or something. Whereas I need this to be a little bit more just like, this guy works in an office just as much as he works the street. Or more than, Ward Marshal, Chief Marshal. Eye of the Crown. Yeah. Seeker, I've got somewhere in there. I think Seeker is a kind of a neat base because it's got that idea of, like you track people down. What do they call Canadian? No, they're Mounties. They're Mounties. You can't be a Mountie. Is there a different word for like Canadian Mounties? I like that idea of, they come after you. They take you down. I should put somewhere in my inspiration list, Catch Me If You Can. I can't type. Catch me if you can. Robocops. Yeah, and then the mounted police. See, that's the problem. I want to kind of pull from sources. I want to ideally get words that people already have links in their head that make them go, oh, okay, like that's what that is. So making something up from scratch doesn't tend to work quite as well. I mean, I might just have to, you can't come up with the perfect term for everything, and at some point you just have to pick a name and go with it, and it doesn't really ultimately matter, but it's something that I get stuck on, something I get hung up on. Anything wrong with detective? Not inherently. I'll add it to the list to be considered as a part of the thing. What's a civiler? Clearly found that word at some point in my searching. Yeah, because I like words like inspector, but it doesn't seem like high-ranking enough. Janissary could be cool. Yeah, maybe something in another language would work. Maybe play on the security police names. See, but that's just it, KB Tibbs. DCI. Like, I've watched too many British TV shows where I'm just like, oh yeah, he's just a DCI. Like, it's not small, but it doesn't feel federal. And I feel like for a heist text, it's got to feel federal. Yeah, I mean, don't stress over it too much, y'all. Like, we don't get every answer every time. But how do other people feel about Cooper as a surname? Because someone in here didn't like Cooper as a surname. And that's legit. I think I chose Cooper because firstly because it was a reference to Twin Peaks, but also because I like that thing of the vibe that they go for with the feds in this stuff is usually, it's like someone who's blue collar, but now they're in a white collar position, which is, I mean, it's very silly and it's very tropey, but it's, the reason I chose Cooper partly was because it's this very sort of labor-based surname, right? It's like he came from Cooper's and now he's this. It kind of, yeah, and it feels, I want it to feel very common, very sort of basic. That's true. Cooper, copper, cops. That's a good point. I don't know if you guys can hear the loud conversation that's happening just outside my room, but apologies. Carter, yeah. So, okay, let's break it down. To those who don't like Cooper, which again is legit, what is it that you don't like about it? Is it the sound? Is it literally the sound of it? Is it that it sounds too modern in some ways? Is it that you don't like the k? Because I'm not married to the k. I'm not married to the Cooper. I'm not married to any of that stuff. But Cooper reminds you of DB Cooper. Cooper's weird. Miller would be better. Night Inquisitor Bren Miller. Bren Miller? Really? Dale Cooper's named after DB Cooper? I didn't know that. Turner. Bren Turner? Well, it wasn't like I'm just naming characters, right? Like this is the note-taking process. It's just a matter of like putting down names that already have been designed to call to mind a certain thing, right? So I'm replying to someone who said that they didn't like it because it was literally a Twin Peaks reference. It's not about going, this is me now making a reference to Twin Peaks that people might pick up on. I wrote this down already kind of intending that at some point it would be traded up for something, but it's just kind of sounding stuff out. And if you look at pop cultural text, if you look at something and you go, okay, Twin Peaks, here's this special agent Dael Cooper, I already know that name has some kind of it's already gone through a process of, yeah, that seems like it fits for this kind of character. So if I pick characters, like I could pick, you know, Tommy Lee Jones's character and look at his name and bounce off it from there. But the idea is just to start from a place where it's like, okay, this is the vibe we're going for, and then kind of, you know, mill it over time. Do we know if they're human or half orc or whatever? I don't have it written down here, but I think they might be a half orc. I don't know if I ever actually wrote that down somewhere, but I think at some point I was thinking they might be a half orc. Let me see if I have notes on that anywhere. RPGs, fantasy, D&D, games I want to run. Nope, can't find it. Might be in here somewhere, but who knows. NPC info? No, I don't see him in here. I think I've got a picture saved somewhere. The reason I'm mucking about is that I think I have somewhere a picture saved that I thought, hey, that looks like it could be the Fed from my Dragon Heist game I might run one day. And I have it saved somewhere, but I don't know where. Fletcher. Bren Fletcher. I like that. And who's to say? It might change again at some point, but I kind of like that. Hey, Cassidy, welcome. Welcome to the stream. So anyway, those are our different factions that are going on. So blah, 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 all these things. Now I have somewhere, where are the items, events? No, where did I write this stuff down? I must have had it written down somewhere. Day planner, overarching adventure? No, this isn't it. Okay, but yeah, so those are the kind of factions that we're working with, and then I've got kind of the idea of like a calendar of city events that are going on, a calendar of kind of the different seasonal plans of the other factions, and then as the players make their choices and, you know, choose their targets, it kind of impacts how things unfold as they go. But what are people more interested in talking about? So we've got, of course, this section here. I saw a lot of talk about the collector even as we were leaving the collector section, probably because it's extremely empty. All right, Chase, thanks for hanging out. See ya. Have good day tomorrow, early day. Can we plan a parade heist? Yeah, I mean, if people want to do that, if people want to talk about the collector. Hey, Pigeon Master, welcome. Sergeant at Arms. Okay, I don't hate that. Sergeant is, Sergeant. Okay. Joe Axel the Collector, vague and evocative. Yeah, so whatever people want to talk about, because, you know, it's kind of, it's just like every other map stream that we've done, where we end up just coming up with a bunch of stuff, except it's, you know, not in map form. So, you know, I've just got all these notes that are slowly coming together. You know, it's, I think in particular, I want to work out, I have a list somewhere and I'm annoyed I can't find where I've hidden it. But I have a list somewhere of the different kinds of heists that I want to hit, right? Because you want to do, you know, one, you know, I don't know, on the move heist. You want to do one kind of prison break. You want to do, yeah. I wish I could find it. I know it's in here somewhere. And these are all my holiday notes, obviously, for sure. It's annoying. I wonder if it's on my phone. Maybe it's on my phone. Oh well, sorry about that. Side note, Will Crow is a tabaxi. I mean, in my head, Will Crow is a human, but who knows? How about lieutenant? You still think that the collector should be a fae. What are people's thoughts on, like, drow and their relationship to fae? Yeah, well, okay, so, I mean, the interesting thing is, in wanting to do lots of different kinds of heists. So I suspect that the players would start out the game knowing the location of, like, one or two keys, and then the rest of the time they're going to have to research it, right? And then as they're researching, other factions are doing the work and taking keys. So, you know, they might find out, oh, well, this key is in this location, only to get there too late. Someone else has already hit it. Or they'll get the news that someone has, you know, robbed X location. That's kind of the idea of the calendars, right? Is that I know this thing is going to happen on this day unless the players do something to stop it. And so I want it to include things like, as things get tighter and tighter, the other factions have more and more of the keys. So you're going to end up with events where it's like, okay, you're trying to steal this key from this other faction, which is where a lot of the Alexandrian remix stuff comes in, right? Because you're in the Alexandrian remix, you're basically heisting sort of faction outposts in order to find information on where the faction stronghold is, and then you go and you heist the stronghold, and that's where you have your kind of showdown with the bad guys. But in amongst that, I want it to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, the keys have all been taken from their original hidden locations. You have to go after one of these other factions now. But by that point, some of the other factions who were in the running are also going after it. So now it's a race. The two of you are heisting the same location at the same time. Critical Role did that very recently too. Then you've also got situations where other factions are going to come after you. Once they realize that you are part of this game, they're going to come after you and try to get your stuff. So you might have to defend against a heist at some point. You know, I want it to feel like it's getting narrower and narrower as the story progresses through the seasons. Yeah, so I definitely think that there will be times that you are heisting, you know, Jalaxel directly or Manchun directly. Maybe there are more than 7 keys. Interesting. Tell me more. Yeah, tailing a guy and pickpocketing him, that kind of stuff. You know, it's cool. I want early on. I think the keys are gonna be slightly more incidental because it's just gonna be wherever the key ended up. But then as it goes, it also gets harder because the people who have the keys by that time are people who understand what they're for. You know, maybe one of the keys is hidden on, like, the full key ring of the warden at the prison, right? And the current warden doesn't realize, like, maybe the previous warden inherited one of the keys and he was, you know, involved in the tontine, but then he died suddenly and surprisingly, and this guy who's come in to take over after him just gets this ring of keys, doesn't realize that one of them is for the vault, right? So, you know, you get these people who are like, they don't know what it's about, or they don't understand the importance of it. So it's kind of easier in some ways. It's harder to track down those keys maybe, but you know, once you do track them down, actually getting them, they're not guarded to the same degree as later keys would be. That's true. The connection with the idea of a sort of winter and autumn court of death. Are the keys actually keys, or are they different kinds of objects? I think that for the most part, the keys are actually keys. I want to save tricksy stuff for. I don't know. I think the vault has to be kind of what it says on the tin, not in a way that it's like, oh, it's really straightforward, but in the sense that the characters have already, done enough research because they're in on this. Like, they're in on this heist. They need this money. They need to succeed. Like, I don't want them to be tiny players who accidentally end up in on it the way that it's kind of written in Dragon Heist as it stands. I want them to deliberately be involved in this. I want them to be playing that game and getting in on the hunt. And so I think that I have to, if I want the players to start from that position, I need their characters to, I need there to be a certain level of trust where I say, your characters have done the research, they know that these are the things that they need. And for that to be true. I think there will be hidden elements that they discover along the way, but I think that comes in the sense of like, if there are extra keys, or if there are, hidden elements after the keys, or, I don't know, other twists. I think that the things you say have to be true. So if you say, you need keys for the vault, here is a key, it looks like a key. I don't know. I don't want to kind of muck around the players too much in that regard, I suppose. There was another thing that made me think of something along those lines. I don't remember what it is. Can you tell my meds are wearing off? I'm just getting more and more like as we go. Oh, that's interesting, Lachlan. Secret faction of people who try to protect those just living their ordinary lives. That's true. A broken key. Interesting. Recently I put on a heist movie. I was on Netflix. I looked at the blurb and I was like, that sounds like fun. Sounds like a cheesy like heist movie. Sounds fine. Sounds good. And I put it on, and like 5-10 minutes into the movie, there's like a news bulletin that they're all watching very bored at the bank, and they're watching this news bulletin. It's like, yes, the zombie apocalypse that's in Las Vegas in the United States. And I was like, what? What's going on? It turned out it was the prequel to Army of the Dead, and just the blurb didn't even mention it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Cheesy movie. I don't think there needs to be anything that dramatic about the keys. I think it's just that there are keys. I think the thing is, it's the flying hellfish tontine, right? It's simple as anything in terms of if you have the keys, you can get in. But the tricky element is finding the vault. And to find the vault, you gotta get the gem and you gotta, follow a trail of clues. Right? But the keys, I think the keys just get to be keys. I think the locks themselves are probably magical in some capacity because you don't want people to just pick it like a rogue. Unless you make a whole freaking mini game, but like anyway, there's like it's not just the keys. You need the keys, and that's like the major element because you have to have the keys to get through, but like there's also other stuff that you have to do in order to find the vault. Finding the vault is a whole separate issue. So I'm not particularly worried about people bypassing the keys because there's other hoops they got to jump through anyway. And also I think that I know that other people clearly have this issue, but for me, I don't know. I just I have been lucky enough that people I've run for generally want to have a story. So they don't tend to try to bypass stuff so much. But then again, like Colville says, players will try to optimize the fun out of the thing if they can. Hey, well, thank you so much for dropping in, Apathicus. It's nice to hear from you. I hope that someday you find your way back. But yeah, I don't know. And then of course there's stuff beyond as well because I want to have this dragon fight, right? Like it's not just a matter of only collect the keys over and over again, because I don't think that would be so fun. The title of Lock Warden just popped into your head. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. See, that's interesting, Jeffrey. I do think that the collector probably already has a key come game start. I think that's how the collector ends up in the loop. I think they just incidentally have ended up. Story-wise, why 7? I'm not locked in on 7 or anything like that. It's just I want there to be enough keys that, you know, once you've, you know, found 1 or 2, there's still plenty to go. I want there to be enough, like, I don't know, I can't think of words right now, I'm very sorry. Enough slack on the rope that you can do different things with stuff. Like, there's enough room for me to maneuver and invent cool new things that they have to do. But I don't want it to be too many. I don't want it to be too samey and do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I want it to be kind of just enough. I've even toyed with, I think I have notes somewhere, although clearly not on here. I have notes somewhere that actually say, you know, the total number of keys is a mystery, but they know it's more than 4. Something like that. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with just picking a number and going with it either. Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is that with 7, you have kind of enough that you can still have more heists to go, right? But that if you're feeling the pace is slacking and you want it to speed up, you can also go, okay, well, we're further towards the end, you know, we're 3 seasons deep into the year. You heist Manchun's base at Blue Alley and you find 2 of the keys because he's already been collecting them, or you go to the collector and he's got 3 of the keys. You know, you can sort of speed it up if you need to, but have enough room to keep it drip fed if you need to as well. As someone who's running the remix, the 3 Eyes and the Stone of Galore itself is a lot. Ha 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 ha. That is valuable insight, and I believe you. But, as I said, you're going to be finding, you know, more than 1 towards the end at any given place. And also, I think I probably am not going to follow the outpost then core system. So, right, it's a lot to handle because you have to go to the outpost, find the information, find the base, go to the base, then, you know, heist the base. Whereas I don't know, I want it to be more kind of straightforward than that. I want it to be like, research this person who you know had the key. Oh, you find out that he was, you know, the warden of the prison and he died on the job. And he was like viciously protective and kept his office locked at all times or whatever. You know, like you find all this information that tells you, okay, the key is basically there. I don't want it to have to be like point to point to point to point. But having said all that as well, four blocks of 10 sessions kind of gives you a lot of room to work as well. Because how much is that? Let me pull up a calculator. I'm sorry, I'm sniffing into the microphone. That's very rude of me. So 40 divided by, I mean, let's include the gem, shall we? And then leave, yeah, okay. So what is that? Every 5 sessions you get a key. But then there's also room in amongst that for other stuff. Maybe that's even too little. That seems like a lot of time between things. But, you know, interesting. Is 10 continents too many for a campaign setting? I don't think there's any answer for that, Stormhawk. I think that your players are unlikely to go to 10. But that doesn't mean that you can't have other games that start in a different continent or things like that. It's, I think if you have 10 continents in your campaign setting, that probably means that you enjoy world building. And I say, go ahead and world build. an interesting idea. Do the keys do anything while you hold them? Do they lend boons to their holders that would improve their odds of actually fulfilling their purpose? Interesting concept. Now everyone's answering Stormhawk. Did you ever watch that show with the Stormhawks? Bye, Logan. I have been. I have. I think part of my issue is that I am dead set on changing so many of the factions and stuff about the factions. I have such a strong drive to just muck around with things that I, at a certain point, I can't really just run via anything that someone else has written because I've already changed too much of the content. It's my constant issue. Mentioning the Stormhawks has unlocked a core memory. Yeah. What a time to be alive. All right. Well, it seems like chat is slowing down a bit, and I can say that I also am slowing down. And I really hoped that I would hang on for longer than this, but alas, I might have to call it a day. I'm very sorry that I didn't get up a video this week, but I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something, not only because I don't want the algorithm to hate me, but also because I want to hang out with you all, because I quite like you. Hear me out, underwater or skybase. Both excellent. Ooh, that's late. That's late, Cave. Oh, you're halfway through Jonathan's Street, Mr. Norrell? Where are you up to? We were just talking about it last night. It's hard because it is a slow book. It is a slow build, but boy does it build. Really, really love it. Sounds parasocial to me, TBH, you're right. Jarlax Xanathar. It's a beholder with a different style hat on each eye. I mean, magnificent. Absolutely. Absolutely flawless. No complaints, no notes. Well, Groovy, I mean, I'm sorry that it ended up just being mostly a tour of my notes so far, but I don't know, I like hearing people's feedback. I think that you all are good as a sort of bounce ideas off of and get good ideas back thing. I'm good at language. So I am going to, I was going to say hit the sack, but it's 3:30 in the afternoon, but I'll, lie down in bundles of warm fabric and drink lots of water and try to get my body working again. So wish me luck with that. I hope that I'm not chugging cough syrup. I'm actually this is ginger beer with lime, because it's good for you when you crook. But yeah, luckily I don't even have much of a cough, so it's really just a sore throat and a stuffy nose, and an occasional dizzy spell, as I discovered while trying to play some Elden Ring yesterday. But anyway, I'm gonna call it there for the day, and I'm gonna try and rest up. But thank you so much for listening and for helping me out. I'll put on a more interesting board. There we go. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I hope that you have excellent days and evenings and mornings and nights, and I will catch you some other time. Bye, everyone.